I never believed in curses. Not in the real world, anyway. I always thought that kind of thing belonged in books or bad horror movies. I didn't grow up religious, and I'd spent most of my adult life in the military, where fear is practical, not poetic. Fear is that landmine you didn't see. It's a bullet through a windshield. It's not whatever this is. But I'm telling this now because I don't know how much time I have left before I disappear like the others. Before the thing I let out decides it doesn't need me anymore. If you're reading this, if you ever find yourself in Cartagena, Colombia, and you see a narrow colonial building painted red with blue shutters, don't go inside, especially if they offer you room 9. That's where it began for me. I arrived in Cartagena late in the afternoon, sun glaring off the Caribbean like molten gold. Tourists filled the plazas, street musicians played Valiano near the clock tower, and the air smelled like salt and roasted corn. I had no real plan. After my sister died in a car crash the year before, everything inside me collapsed. I took a leave of absence from work, booked a one-way ticket to South America, and started wandering. It felt easier to be somewhere where I didn't understand the language, where no one expected me to smile or talk about healing. I picked a place to stay on instinct. It was a little outside the main tourist district, quieter, older. The building looked like it had been there since the Spanish conquest. The walls were faded and cracked, the wrought iron balconies rusted in beautiful patterns. I liked it. The receptionist was a man named Mateo, thin, polite, spoke perfect English. He checked me in without much fuss. "This place has stories," he said with a half smile as he handed me the key. "If you hear something strange at night, ignore it. It's just the wolves remembering." I thought he was joking. Room 9 was on the second floor, down a long hallway that creaked with every step. There were only 2 rooms occupied on that floor, mine and one other at the far end, door shut, no sound. But what caught my attention was a door directly opposite mine. It was sealed shut with 3 rusted locks and marked with chalk symbols I didn't recognize. I assumed it was some kind of storage closet or maintenance room, but even then, it felt wrong. The air near that door was heavier. Not warm, not cold, just dense, like something pressed against your skin the moment you looked at it. That night, after I unpacked, I stood in front of that door for a good minute. No sound, no movement, but I couldn't shake the sense that something was waiting behind it. I went out for drinks around 9 p.m., met some tourists, traded stories, tried to lose myself in the rhythm of the city. When I came back, sometime past midnight, the hallway was dark. The overhead light near my door flickered softly, casting long shadows across the floor. And then I heard it. Scratching. Soft, deliberate, coming from the other side of the sealed door. I froze, listened. It continued for a few seconds, then stopped. Then a low, wet whisper that didn't sound like any Spanish I had ever heard. I backed away slowly and got into my room, locking the door behind me. I told myself it was rats. Old building, old walls. Maybe some kind of animal was trapped back there. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I asked Mateo what was behind the sealed door. He looked up from his coffee slowly. "That room is not in use." "Yeah, I figured," I said, trying to sound casual. "But I heard something inside last night." He set his cup down. "We don't open that room." "Why not?" He didn't answer at first. Then he leaned forward and said, "Because something was put there a long time ago. Not a person, not an animal. Something that should not be remembered. The building used to be a prison. That room, they say, it was a cell, but not for the living." I waited for him to smile, to say it was a joke. He didn't. He got up and walked away. That afternoon, I explored the city. I visited the fort, took a tour of the old dungeon museum. The guide mentioned how certain prisoners were kept in solitary confinement in underground rooms, places where sunlight never touched. I thought about the door again. When I got back, I noticed something strange. White powder, like salt or ground chalk, sprinkled in a circle around the sealed door. Fresh. New. I knocked on Mateo's office. No answer. That night, around 3 a.m., I woke up drenched in sweat. My room was freezing. The AC was off. I heard the floorboards creak outside, followed by whispers, then a slow, dragging sound, as if someone were pulling their foot along the wood. I opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the salt circle was broken. One of the locks was undone. I didn't sleep again. I stayed up until dawn, sitting in the corner of my room with a chair pushed against the door. My heart wouldn't stop pounding. I told myself to leave, pack up, go to a hotel closer to the beach, forget all of this, but I didn't. The next day, I found something underneath one of the loose floorboards near the window. An old iron key, corroded but intact, wrapped in faded cloth. I don't know what possessed me to keep it, but I did. Part of me felt like it had been left there for me to find. When I held it, my fingers tingled and the room seemed to tilt just ever so slightly, like gravity shifted for just a moment. That night, I stood in front of the door again. 2 locks remained. The air was cold. The chalk symbols were starting to fade. I heard the whisper again, clearer this time, like a woman's voice rasping through water. Let me see the sky again. I pressed my hand against the wood. Something pressed back. That's when I realized this wasn't just a door. It was a seal. And something behind it, something ancient, something forgotten, was getting stronger. Because I was here. Because I was listening. Because I had the key.
I should have thrown the key into the ocean. That would have been the smart thing, logical, safe. But I didn't. I kept it in my pocket like some cursed charm, even as the air around room 9 grew colder and heavier with every passing day. There was this constant, low vibration in the hallway now, too soft to be sound, too subtle to be felt outright, but always there, like a presence just beneath the skin. And still, I stayed. People always assume you run when you're scared, but sometimes fear roots you in place. It paralyzes, it hypnotizes. I told myself I was just tired, maybe sick, jet lag. Maybe I was grieving and going crazy. Maybe that room had nothing to do with it, just a door, right? But deep down, I already knew I'd made a mistake. On the 4th night, I woke up again around 3 a.m. My body felt heavier than usual, as if something was pressing gently on my chest. The sound that woke me wasn't scratching this time. It was weeping. A woman. Quiet, broken sobs, right outside my door. I waited in the dark, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stepped into the hallway. No one there. The salt line around the sealed door had been disturbed again, smeared like something had stepped over it. Only one lock remained. I moved closer, heart hammering in my throat. The doorknob was damp, like it had just been touched by wet fingers. I didn't mean to do it, not really. I told myself I was just checking, just making sure the key didn't fit. But my hand went into my pocket on its own. I inserted the key into the last lock. It clicked. The hallway went completely still, no breeze, no sound. Even the flickering ceiling bulb stopped buzzing. I should have turned back. I opened the door. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Salt, rot, and something coppery like blood left out in the sun. The room beyond wasn't like the rest of the hostel. The walls were stone, damp with condensation, mismatched stones held together with ancient mortar. The floor sloped downward slightly, and there was a mirror on the far wall. Massive, cracked, framed in rusted iron. A single wooden chair sat in the center, turned to face the mirror. Chains hung from its arms and legs. Something dark stained the floor beneath it. No windows, no furniture, just that chair and the mirror and an overwhelming sense of wrongness. It felt like walking into a memory not meant to be remembered. And then I heard it again, the whisper. Let me see the sky again. This time it came from the mirror. I took one step inside, and everything changed. The light behind me dimmed, though the hallway bulb hadn't changed. The walls seemed to stretch, like the room was pulling me in. I looked at the mirror and saw my reflection standing there, but it wasn't quite me. The head was tilted too far, the mouth too wide. Its eyes were sewn shut. I staggered back, bumping into the chair. That's when I felt it, fingers brushing my ankle. I spun around. Nothing there. The whisper returned, louder now, less like a request and more like a demand. I remember the tide. I remember the blood. I backed out of the room, heart slamming in my chest, and slammed the door shut. But I knew it was open now. There was no sealing it again. I didn't sleep that night. I barely breathed. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind outside, every murmur of the building settling sounded like something crawling out. I confronted Matteo the next morning. You opened it, he said. Not a question, an accusation. I didn't mean to, He shook his head. You should leave. You should have never stayed in that room. I need to know what that was. What's in there? He stared at me for a long moment. Then he closed the lobby early and pulled out a dusty binder from behind the desk. This place, he said, used to be a holding site during the Spanish Inquisition, not official, secret, run by clergy who didn't answer to Rome. They brought people here who they couldn't explain, witches, cursed, touched by something from the sea. He opened to a yellowed page, a sketch of a woman, arms bound, eyes sewn shut. The caption read, La hija del mar, the daughter of the sea. He continued, they said she could call storms, that her voice could split ships. She spoke in tongues no one had heard before. She killed 5 priests just by whispering. So they sealed her, not just her body, her essence, her stream, behind salt, behind mirrors, behind pain. I couldn't speak. I recognized her. I had seen her in the mirror. Matteo told me the mirror was her last tether. They didn't kill her, they bound her, in silence, in darkness. The chains were forged from iron taken from shipwrecks. The mirror was made from obsidian cooled in a mass grave. And I had broken the final lock. Why me? I asked. Why now? She called to you, he said. You carry grief, pain. She tastes that. She found your cracks. The next night, the hostel lost power. I sat in the room with a candle and a kitchen knife. It wasn't enough. Around 2 a.m., I saw the first wet footprints on the floor. They started at the open door, and ended right at the foot of my bed. The flame of the candle flickered, though the air was still. The mirror on the closet door began to fog from the inside, and I heard a voice, not a whisper this time, but loud and clear and impossible. "You carry me now." I turned to the mirror. My reflection was gone. I don't know what she wants. Not really. But I know she's not trapped in that room anymore. She's with me. She follows me in reflections, in puddles, in glass. I see glimpses of her when I brush my teeth, when I check the time on my phone screen. She's always just out of reach, just behind me, watching, waiting. I left Cartagena the next morning. I didn't check out. I didn't tell anyone. I just left the key on the desk and walked to the docks and caught the first ferry I could find. It didn't matter where it was going. But as the boat pulled away from the shoreline, I looked back at the shore, and there she was, standing on the pier, drenched, eyes sewn shut, smiling. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I took a ferry to an island I don't even remember the name of. Then a bus inland, then another. I kept moving. The further I got from Cartagena, the more I hoped I could shake her off, like this was just a bad fever dream that hadn't cooled yet. But wherever I went, she followed. And I wasn't the only one who noticed. The first sign was in a cheap motel 3 towns south of Barranquilla. I checked in with cash, kept the lights low, tried not to speak to anyone. The clerk was polite, but distant, like she didn't want to ask questions. I liked that. But around 2 a.m., the mirror in the bathroom cracked by itself. I was in bed, phone in hand, scrolling through photos I didn't remember taking. One caught my eye. It was a picture of the hallway in the Cartagena hostel. Except in this photo, there was someone standing by the door. She was tall, drenched, hair like kelp, mouth open like she was screaming, but no sound came through. And where her eyes should have been, thread. Rough black cord stitched through pale skin, a blind woman screaming through time. I didn't remember taking it. I deleted the photo, turned the phone off, got up to splash cold water on my face. When I turned on the bathroom light, she was in the mirror. Not behind me, not a trick of the light. Inside it, pressing her sewn face to the glass, blood seeping from the threads. I smashed it, barehanded, bloodied my knuckles. Shards of her face rained into the sink. The next morning, the motel was empty, like everyone had just walked away, even the clerk. I tried flying back to the States. I made it as far as the Bogota airport before I passed a window and saw my own reflection staring at me with her sewn eyes. I panicked, threw up in the restroom. Security came, asked me questions. I couldn't answer. I looked insane. I missed my flight, probably for the best. By then, I accepted it. I wasn't going to outrun her. She wasn't tied to the room anymore. She was tied to me. The only person I could think to contact was my sister's old college friend, Andrew, a researcher, lived in Belize. She used to joke that he collected weird stories like insects. He'd once written a thesis on Latin American death cults and colonial-era spiritual syncretism. I emailed him from an internet cafe in San Salvador. Subject line, "I opened a door, something came out." He responded in under 10 minutes. His reply was short. "Where are you? Do not look into mirrors. Whatever you do, don't let it reflect you twice. I'm on my way." That phrase haunted me. Don't let it reflect you twice. I met Andrew in a dusty coastal town near the Belizean border. He brought books, old ones, handwritten journals wrapped in linen. Some of the titles weren't even in English or Spanish. We sat in a shack lit by candlelight because neither of us trusted the fluorescent glare of modern light anymore. He asked me everything. I told him everything. When he finished, he opened one of the books and showed me an illustration, a woman bound in chains, her eyes stitched shut, mouth open in an eternal scream. He said, she was never a ghost. She was a voice, a carrier of a dead language. They say it came from beneath the ocean floor, older than Babel. Her scream didn't echo. It changed people, rewrote them. Those who heard her stopped being human. He flipped another page. And now? I asked. Andrew looked at me. Now, she has you. He believed the door I opened was never meant to hold a body. It held a frequency, a pattern of grief made solid. And when I broke the final lock, I let her frequency imprint onto mine. He said, she doesn't walk behind you, she walks through you. That night, I had a dream. I was underwater, deep beneath black waves. Around me, corpses floated with open mouths, their eyes sewn shut like hers. They reached out to me, mouths stretching wider, as if trying to scream through the stitches. One of them touched my forehead, and I heard her voice, not with my ears, but in my bones. Your grief opened the door. Your face is now mine. I woke up screaming. Andrew wasn't in the shack. His car was still outside, his bags untouched, but all the mirrors in the shack had been turned to face inward. On the wall, drawn in salt, she looked at me twice. I never saw Andrew again. It's been weeks. I move from town to town, avoid mirrors, smash every reflective surface I see. People think I'm insane. Maybe I am. But sometimes I catch a glimpse of her in a puddle, a window, a spoon. She's getting closer. I feel her in my bones now, like a song I can't unhear. A song from under the sea. And I know the truth. She isn't haunting me. She is becoming me.
I started carrying salt in my pocket. Not because I believed it would stop her. That illusion was gone. But it gave me something to do with my hands. Something to hold when the world started flickering. When mirrors twitched and puddles whispered. When her shadow curled just outside the edge of my vision. Andrew said salt was one of the seals. Iron, salt, grief, and silence. Grief, that part was easy. Silence came later. I was staying in an abandoned fishing shack off the coast of Belize, near a mangrove swamp. It stank of brine and mildew, but no one came there, and there were no mirrors. That was the important part. No screens, no glass. Just wood and rusted metal. Safe, for now. I taped newspaper over the windows. At night, I heard her scraping across it with her nails, long, jagged things like fishbone. I slept in bursts, waking every few hours to throw salt across the floor or whisper to myself just to hear my own voice, to remind myself I was still alone. But even that didn't last. The first night I broke was the third since Andrew vanished. I woke to the sound of breathing. Not mine. Wet, ragged, close. I didn't move. I kept my eyes shut and listened. Inhale, shudder, exhale, moan. Like lungs that had forgotten how to be lungs. Then something cold brushed my foot. I opened my eyes. She was kneeling beside my bed.
Her body looked stitched together from different drowned women, one arm swollen and blackened with rot, her hair dripping seaweed, her face, it was almost mine, but not quite. Her eyes were still sewn shut. Her mouth, too wide to be human, smiled, and even without opening it, I heard her voice in my head. You don't know how deep the sea really is. I screamed, threw the bag of salt in her face, and bolted out the door barefoot into the swamp. The night was loud with frogs and crickets, but all I could hear was her whisper chasing me. The water was knee-high, mud sucked at my legs, branches tore at my arms. I tripped, fell face first into the muck, came up coughing black water and bile. Then I heard it, a soft schlick. Not a word, a sound, like something slithering up behind me. I turned and saw the reflection of the moon in the water ripple. Then it smiled. I don't remember how I made it out of the swamp. I think I blacked out. When I woke, the sun was up and the reflection was gone, but not the presence. Never the presence. I found scratches on my skin, deep curling symbols carved into my forearms. I hadn't done them. They weren't letters. They were coordinates. I followed them. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted it to end. Maybe I thought I could undo what I'd done. Maybe grief and obsession are the same thing once you've lost enough pieces of yourself. The coordinates led me to a beach north of Livingston, Guatemala. Locals refuse to go there. They call it Playa de los Lamentaciones, the beach of lamentations. No homes nearby, no tourists, just endless black sand, whispering waves, and the ruins of something old, half-buried stone columns tangled in roots and coral. There was a circle of salt there, unbroken, fresh. Inside it, a rusted mirror, lying face up in the sand. I approached slowly. The wind stopped. The sea pulled back. And then I saw her. Not in the mirror this time, but rising from the ocean itself. She was tall now, taller than any human should be. Her body stretched and cracking, skin like eel flesh, hair floating in tendrils behind her. She walked without touching the ground, her sewn eyes bleeding seawater, her mouth still shut, but I could hear her screaming inside my skull. I fell to my knees. Something inside me gave way, like a dam breaking. Every memory of my sister's death poured through me. The phone call, the body, the silence at the funeral, the way I couldn't cry. And then I did. I screamed. I screamed everything I'd been holding back. The sound hit the air like thunder, and the mirror shattered. Not from impact, from release. She stopped, mid-step, tilted her head, confused. Her stitched mouth parted just a crack, as if tasting my grief. And then she spoke, for the first time, a voice like whale song and bones scraping glass. You remember now. Then she vanished, gone. No splash, no mist, just gone. I sat on that beach until nightfall, breathing, crying, not because she left, but because I finally understood. She wasn't haunting me. She was feeding on me. And now, she was full. For days I waited for her to return. She didn't. I smashed every reflective surface I owned just in case. Then I walked town to town, face to the ground, eyes never meeting glass, until I finally dared to look again. In a puddle, just outside a gas station in rural Honduras, my face stared back at me. But it wasn't her anymore. It was me. My own eyes. Alive. Human. For the first time in months, I felt alone. And it terrified me. Because if she's not with me anymore, then where did she go?
I should have been relieved. She was gone. No more whispers, no more shadows behind the mirror, no more wet footprints or ghostly weeping in the dark. For the first time in months, I could breathe without checking every reflection. And yet, all I felt was dread, because something else had taken her place. Silence. Not the comforting kind, not peace. The kind that hangs in the air before something happens. The stillness before a scream. It started when I crossed into Nicaragua. I'd been hitchhiking north toward Honduras again, trying to stay off the grid, sleeping in hostels or abandoned buildings. I didn't talk to people. I avoided faces. I'd gotten used to the paranoia. But in Nicaragua, it wasn't me they were looking at anymore. It was the people around me. In León, I stopped at a roadside restaurant. First time I'd sat inside a building with real walls in over a week. I ordered black coffee, kept my head down, hands curled around the mug like it might protect me. There were maybe 6 other people inside. Tourists mostly, college kids, backpackers. And a girl, young, maybe 20, sitting alone at the table near the back. She had a notebook open, headphones in, head bobbing softly to music only she could hear. I don't know what made me look at her twice. Maybe it was the way the glass in front of her rippled, like water. She didn't see it. No one did. But I knew that movement, that vibration, that soft shimmer in the air. It was her. Not the girl. Her. The one I'd unleashed. And now, she'd found someone else. I watched, helpless, as the girl closed her notebook and went to the restroom. As she passed the mirror near the hallway, her reflection lagged a split second behind her body. My blood ran cold. She didn't notice. I did. I waited. When she came out, her eyes were glassy, distant, like she'd just woken up from a deep dream. She looked at me, directly, smiled. But it wasn't her smile, not fully. I recognized that curve, the way it stretched too wide, too knowing. And then she was gone. I left León that night. Didn't even finish my coffee. Didn't sleep either. I just walked, miles down the highway, toward nowhere, because nowhere was safer than wherever she was now. Because if she could move on, it meant something worse. It meant she didn't need me anymore.
I started seeing signs. Not metaphorical ones, literal. Salt circles broken, mirrors cracked in bus terminals. Children crying near reflective puddles. In Granada, a man threw himself into the lake after staring into a coin-operated photo booth. People said he was drunk. He wasn't.
I saw the footage, somehow. He was smiling when he did it. That same wide, terrible smile. The worst was in a small mountain village. They found an entire family dead inside their home, doors locked, windows boarded, no signs of struggle. Only mirrors in every room turned to face one another. Infinite reflections, infinite doors. The baby was found cradled in the mother's arms, mouth sewn shut with black thread. No one knew how. I did. I knew what she was doing. She wasn't just feeding now. She was spreading, like a parasite learning how to live outside its host, using grief to attach, using mirrors to travel. And worse, she was learning to open her mouth. I tracked the girl from Lyon. Her name was Maya, an American student on a gap year. Smart, curious, deep trauma. Her mother had drowned when she was 13. Perfect vessel. She posted online about unexplainable dreams, about waking up wet, hearing music from beneath the floorboards. Then she posted a selfie in front of a cracked bathroom mirror. Her caption? Quote, "I've never felt more like myself." End quote. It wasn't her words. It was hers. I tried warning her. I made a burner account, sent messages, DMs, voice notes. No response. A few days later, her account was deleted. I found her in a hostel in Costa Rica, near Limon. It was raining. The building was tall and narrow, almost colonial in style. It reminded me of Cartagena. Too much. I asked the clerk if Maya was staying there. He didn't answer. He just pointed to the second floor. Room 9. I hesitated outside her door. I felt the air vibrate, heard the low hum of whispers behind the wall. I raised my hand to knock. The door opened on its own. She stood in the doorway, barefoot, soaked, smiling. Her eyes weren't sewn shut. Not anymore. They were mine. Brown, tired, fractured. She looked just like I did the first time I saw her. She leaned forward and whispered, "You gave me the key. Do you want it back?" And behind her, I saw them. Others, standing in the shadows of the room, faces half hidden, some crying, some silent, some smiling just like her, like me. I turned and ran, didn't stop until I reached the ocean, didn't speak for days, didn't look at my reflection once, because I knew what I'd see now. Not her, me, but not just me, all of us. She's not a spirit. She's not a ghost. She's not even human. She's an infection, a language, a virus made of pain and grief and echoes. And she's not hiding anymore.
I crossed into Panama by boat. I didn't care where I was going, as long as it was away. But there's no away when you carry something like this inside you. You just move in circles, different lands, same shadow. And now, I wasn't just running from her. I was running from them. Since Maya opened that door, more followed. I saw their eyes in windows, strangers who flinched at their own reflections. I watched a woman in a cafe twist a spoon slowly, staring into it like it was whispering secrets. Every time I looked too long into any reflective surface, I didn't just see her anymore. I saw faces. Plural. Dozens. All watching me. All smiling. All stitched. Like a choir of drowned mouths waiting to sing.
It was in Panama City that I realized it was no longer about me. I saw the boy in the marketplace, 6 years old maybe, staring into a puddle that hadn't been there a second before. His mother was distracted, haggling with a vendor. I stepped closer, watching him lean forward. He tilted his head. Then his lips moved. But he wasn't speaking. He was mimicking the reflection, like it was teaching him. I pulled him away hard. The puddle rippled, hissing like oil. The boy blinked confused and started to cry. His mother screamed at me in Spanish. I didn't respond. I just stared at the water, because in it, I saw her. But this time, her mouth was open, and she wasn't alone. I began collecting stories. It was the only thing I could do that made me feel sane. I visited small churches, spoke with fishermen, journalists, old women on benches. They all said the same thing. There's something wrong with the sea. Our mirrors don't work right anymore. Voices at night, not ours, not God's. Children talking in their sleep in languages no one taught them. They were too afraid to name it. But I already had. One man, a blind priest, told me a story. He said that long ago, before the missionaries came, the Kuna people believed in spirits that lived in reflections, not on the land or in the sky. These spirits could only exist if seen, only move through pain, and once seen twice, they'd stay with you forever. His exact words were, "Reflections are like wombs. Some carry life, some carry monsters." He had gouged out his own eyes in the 1970s. He said, "Better darkness than the face that waited for me each morning." By the time I reached Cartagena, I had stopped eating properly. I didn't sleep. I avoided every surface. I taped over phone screens, lived off batteries and paper maps. I didn't trust shadows, because I knew what was coming. The choir. One night, I awoke to a sound I couldn't place. Not weeping, not screaming, singing. Dozens of voices humming something low and wet and broken. A lullaby from the deep. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. I broke through the wood with a crowbar I'd stolen from a roadside shack. Beneath the floor was water, dark, endless, moving in rhythm with the singing. As I stared down, a face rose from below. Not hers, mine, but stitched shut, mouth shone tight, eyes wide and bloated. It sang with the rest of them. And then, without warning, it opened its mouth, and I heard my own scream echo up from the water. I passed out, woke up hours later, covered in salt. Hand-drawn sigils surrounded me. I hadn't made them. Someone else had. The only thing left for me to do was go back, to Cartagena, to the room, to the door. If I didn't, she'd keep spreading, feeding, teaching others to scream her scream. And I had a theory now. Maybe if she came through me, I could take her back with me. Maybe that room wasn't just a prison. Maybe it was a mouth, and I could seal it again from the inside. I bought a plane ticket, wrote a letter, no name, just a warning. I mailed it to a P.O. box I remembered from Andrew's old thesis. Then I packed salt and a mirror and a needle and thread, just in case. When the plane descended over Cartagena, the sea looked different, blacker, thicker, like it was waiting. And as we landed, I heard something in the engine noise. Not a malfunction, a hum, a familiar tune, the same song from the floorboards. She knew I was coming back. I'll end this part here, because what comes next, I'm not sure there's a way back from it. Not for me. Not for any of us.
The cab driver didn't want to stop and get Samani. He said the street was cursed. Said 2 tourists vanished from a hostel the month before, left all their things behind. The police found nothing but a shattered mirror and a trail of salt leading out the back gate. I didn't argue. I just paid in cash, got out 3 blocks early, and walked the rest of the way. Every step toward that building felt like sinking into wet sand, like the city remembered me, like the stones themselves were warning me, but I had to go back. The hostel was still there, peeling paint, faded shutters, courtyard full of half-dead plants, same front door with the cracked doorknob. But something had changed. It was silent. Cartagena is never quiet. The city hums with laughter, traffic, life, but not here. This street was silent. The windows of the hostel were blacked out. The bell didn't ring when I pushed the door open, and there was no one at the front desk. No guests, no staff, just that feeling. Like the air had weight. I followed the hallway. Room 9. My steps echoed like I was walking through a tomb. Every door was closed, locked, but room 9 stood open. Just a sliver, like someone or something had been waiting for me. I pushed the door open with the toe of my boot. The room was exactly as I left it. Same warped floorboards, same rusted mirror on the far wall, same iron door now hanging wide open. No mattress, no sheets, just salt, poured in a perfect circle, and in the center of it, her. She sat cross-legged, facing the mirror, sewn eyes, sewn mouth, hair dripping wet. Her head turned slowly when I entered. Even with her eyes sealed, I felt her watching me. Then I noticed something else. There were others in the room. Reflections. Dozens of them trapped in the glass behind her. Faces I recognized. Andrew, the girl from the cafe, the boy from the market, me. So many versions of me, all stitched, all screaming silently. I stepped forward, crossing the circle. She didn't move, didn't blink. She just reached out, palm up, offering me something. A thread. Black, coarse, still wet. I took it. The moment I did, the mirror rippled, and one of the reflections vanished. Mine, the stitched version of me gone like smoke. And then I understood. She hadn't just infected us, she had gathered us. Reflections copied and distorted, but I was the original, and I had come to end it. I sat down in front of her, pulled the needle from my pocket, threaded it with the damp cord, took a deep breath, and began to sew my own mouth shut. Each stitch burned, not from pain, from memory.
I felt everything, every scream I never released, every moment of helplessness, every word I wanted to take back. By the 6th stitch, I was crying. By the 9th, I couldn't breathe right. When I tied the final knot, the room changed. The salt circle ignited, silent flame, cold and colorless. The reflections began to scream, not aloud, but in vibration, in movement. The mirror cracked, then healed, then cracked again. She reached out and touched my forehead, and for the first time, her mouth opened. No stitches, only teeth. And behind those teeth, endless ocean. She leaned forward. Our foreheads touched, and then everything went dark. I don't know how long I was gone. When I woke, the mirror was gone, the salt scattered, the door closed. I was alone in room 9, mouth still stitched, but alive. No whispers, no humming, just silence. I left the hostel before sunrise. The city was awake again, loud, chaotic, alive, like nothing had happened. But I knew something had changed. She was gone, or at least contained. I still can't speak. I've left the stitches in. A reminder, a seal. But sometimes when I pass a puddle or glance too long at a dark window, I swear I see her standing behind me, smiling, waiting. And I know the truth. She may be gone from this world, but not from me. Because once you let her in, you're never truly alone again.
It's been 211 days since I left Cartagena. I've crossed 4 countries since then. No documents, no phone, no name. I live in silence now. Not because I want to, because I have to. The stitches are still there. Some nights I try to cut them, just to speak again, to tell someone, anyone, what happened. But every time the blade touches thread, I hear her voice. Not in my ears, in my bones. Low and slow, like the current beneath the surface. You open your mouth, I open mine. So I leave them. I eat through straws. I write what I need to say. I avoid mirrors, but I carry one just in case I need to check if she's still gone. So far, she is, but not the others. Because here's the truth. I didn't destroy her. I only locked her in. Not in the mirror. Not in Cartagena. In me. And she left seeds behind. A man in San Salvador slit his own lips open on a bus. No one knows why. A school in Costa Rica banned mirrors after 6 students claimed they saw wet women walking behind them in the hallways. A YouTuber in Guatemala live-streamed himself staring into a basin of water for 4 hours. He never blinked, never moved. When the stream ended, police found him drowned in a dry bathtub.
They're not calling it supernatural. Not yet. But I see the pattern. She's leaking. It wasn't just grief that fed her. It was witnessing. She needed us to look, to speak of her, to spread her story. The more we told it, the more reflections she gained. That's why I stopped writing, stopped speaking. Until now. Because something's changed. Last night, I saw a girl in Honduras on a train platform, alone, watching her face shimmer in the metal siding of a vending machine. She looked just like Maya, only younger. She smiled, tilted her head, and traced a circle in the condensation. Salt. Clockwise. That's the direction to invite something in. I tried to warn her. She didn't answer. Just walked to the edge of the platform and leaned down. Her reflection stayed behind a second too long. So now I'm writing this. Not to warn you. It's too late for that. You've already looked. This story is a mirror. Every word a reflection of what I saw, what I lived, what I brought back. If you made it this far, it means one of two things. You don't believe me, or you're already hearing her too. Either way, there's something you need to understand. You can't fight her, you can't kill her, but you can starve her. Here's how. Don't speak of her name. Don't show her face. Don't let your grief make you curious. And most importantly, never look directly at your reflection in still water after midnight. If you ever hear your own voice humming a song you don't remember learning, run. I've accepted it now. She'll never truly be gone. She's part of me. And maybe part of you now. But I can still keep her quiet. As long as I don't speak. As long as you don't speak for me. So whatever you do, don't share this story. Don't repeat it. Don't turn it into something viral or dramatic or entertaining. Because she listens. And the more people who know, the more doors she has to walk through. If you're still reading, don't look up. Don't check your phone screen. Don't peek at the window beside you. Because she's always just one glance away. And you already gave her what she needed. Your attention.